If this kind of stuff bothers you, like hearing more about it, I'm going to play a few clips and I will talk a little bit more about it. But, you know, that's kind of your warning.
Eventually, I was sure that it was going to escalate into violence, and oftentimes it did. Miss Heard, in her frustration and in her rage and her anger, she would strike out. She would. It could begin with a slap. It could begin with a shove. It could begin with, you know, throwing a TV remote at my head. My personal experiences, which I gave to Miss Heard, those things were. Those facts were used against me as weapons.
All of these accounts of violence or gaslighting. This is something that people who manipulate others and abuse others and are willing to take advantage of others do all the time. They call into question your sanity. My goal originally was to put up the World Is Not Enough review today, so that should be up tomorrow. If you're a 007 fan or even just a movie review fan, please be sure to check that out because the YouTube algorithm does not show anybody. So tomorrow afternoon that should be up. And you might notice this is a little bit more of an informal discussion today. You might even hear a little clicking in the background because Jill is playing Animal Crossing New Horizons. And, you know, why is it a little more informal? Why am I not taking this super seriously? Well, because at this point, Aquaman 2 to me is a bit of a joke. It has been reported by people at test screenings that it was one of the worst DC movies they've ever seen. So whether or not you care about Amber Heard, that's already something on the table that's a little amusing. And then, of course, it's coming on the back of the release of Shazam. So I don't really have negative feelings about Shazam 2. I guess for me, though, it's one of those things that I knew would fail because, you know, you announce a universe reboot. And then, of course, you also take into account the fact that Shazam 1 didn't technically do amazing numbers if you actually look back at its budget compared to what it made. And then finally, of course, you have the fact that they announced it was coming to streaming, I think like 1 week into its showings. They were like, oh, by the way, it's coming to streaming in like 2 weeks from now. So they really tanked that movie. And what makes me sad about Aquaman 2 is I know our discussion here will be meaningless, all right? And yes, that's cynical, but here's why I say it. Because Shazam 2 failed. It did. Whether it could be your favorite movie of all time, it could have changed your life. You could have gone into it, planning to, dedicate your entire life to becoming a murderer or something, and then Shazam 2 comes out and it turns your entire life around, made you a better person. It doesn't matter how you feel about that movie. It financially failed really bad. And because of that, no matter what happens with Aquaman 2, WB has a scapegoat to say, well, look, people aren't interested in these end movies of the original DCEU continuity because they know about the reboot. They're not interested anymore. It can't possibly have anything to do with our decisions around these movies. It can't possibly have anything to do with anything we are doing. No, it's the people. It's that Principal Skinner meme from The Simpsons where it's like, am I out of touch? No, it's the kids who are wrong. That's basically what WB does with their stuff. And Amber Heard has been pretty much confirmed for this movie. I don't think any of us are really surprised, are we? Did anyone really expect them to cut her? Now, was it hopeful thinking with, what was it, a 4.7 million signed petition of people saying they don't like her ass anymore and they want her out? Well, it would be a lot to listen to consumers. I think that's stupid. So instead, they decided to double down and keep her in. Because reportedly during an exclusive presentation to CinemaCon, which I didn't even know existed, there's a con for everything, Warner Bros. Released the first trailer for DC's Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. It's Aquaman 2. The sequel starring Jason Momoa as the underwater superhero also sees Amber Heard's character Mira make a brief cameo in the trailer, according to the reports from the festival. It's worth noting that this was originally reported by Daily Loud, and it's been picked up by pretty much everyone on the entire internet. It was reported yesterday. I'm sure tons of people rushed to make videos yesterday. I didn't because, honestly, it's just annoying to me. Well, why is it annoying to you, Jay? Why do you think that Amber Heard shouldn't be in the movie? Well, there was an entire, just drawn-out circus of a trial involving her and Johnny Depp in which, in my personal opinion, as a bystander looking at the evidence and the things that were shown, because this trial was basically broadcast to everyone, almost like an episode of The Cosby Show or something, just like a daily sitcom. You know, because of that, we saw a lot of dirty laundry come out with these people. And I will say, too, before you get the Amber Heard stands, yes, I do believe there's certain things Johnny Depp really should not have said or done involving this relationship. And for his own good, I believe he should have jumped boat way earlier than he did. Johnny Depp is not a perfect man. And as someone who personally was in and dealt with an abusive relationship, I do want to say, and being a man, I do want to say that a lot of times people don't take that seriously when it comes to men. Johnny Depp has had his vices and his problems, and I believe he would be the first one to admit that, as he has admitted that. Whether it be alcohol or drugs or whatever, the man has had a long life in Hollywood, and of course, with that, a lot of the times comes personal baggage and problems. I don't think anybody would be arguing Johnny Depp is a perfect person, but when it comes to the whole case around him and Amber Heard, in my opinion, he was much more the victim than Amber Heard was. And if you need any evidence of that, here is a very short excerpt that makes my skin crawl every time, where Amber Heard is basically telling Johnny Depp that he should try and report her for something because no one will ever believe him that he could possibly be a victim because he's a man.
A jar of mineral spirits thrown in my nose.
You can please tell people that it was a fair fight and see what the jury and judge think. Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence, and yes. It's a fair fight. And see how many people believe or side with you.
And what did you say in response when Miss Heard said, "Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, a man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence"?
I said yes. I am.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Now, I have a few videos breaking down the entire situation between Amber and Johnny Depp and my opinions on it. Again, I will say, because you have to give this ground to people, they will attack you anyway for believing this, right? I mean, anytime you say a man is a victim, or anytime that you believe you don't believe all women, you're an asshole, right? You're a piece of trash to some people. Because for some reason, women can't lie, but men can. I don't understand that. I guess like they operate by a different form of rules, and then maybe they're a different species. It's kind of like Vulcans and humans in Star Trek, where there's like different rules governing the behavior of each. That's how certain people who really want to defend women feel. And it makes me very disheartened and sad because, in my opinion, the trial between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp shines a very bad light on true victims of domestic abuse. There was an original trial for defamation involving Johnny Depp and Amber that Johnny lost in the UK. I believe he should have won, but he did not. And then, of course, there was a massive trial here in the United States that he won, with a lot of damages being awarded to him from Amber Heard if they are ever paid. Of course, knowing her connections to certain people that are ultra rich, who knows where that money will come from? It could just come out of some other man's bank account who's getting swindled. I could certainly see that. Because it turns out that a lot of times when situations like this happen, all of a sudden the woman is dating someone else of very high social stature, or should I say income, and then all of a sudden problems seem to go away. That's a lot of times what happens here. And of course, we do also have the fact that Johnny Depp was cut from a lot of different things, some of which were involving WB. It's worth noting that WB had basically asked him and told him, in a way, to leave the role of Grindelwald from the Fantastic Beasts movies, which is unfortunate because he was one of the actual bright spots in that film. And then, no hatred to Mads Mikkelsen, but like, I don't blame him for taking the role. It's not like he kicked out Johnny, but I do think that Johnny Depp's role in those films was very good, especially given the film around it. And it's really a shame because WB has no consistent standards on how they view things like abuse of really any kind. Okay? And I know some people are going to say, well, Jay, I saw you on Twitter say certain things about being excited to see Michael Keaton back in The Flash. Why are you thinking about seeing that if you don't want to support Aquaman 2? Because that's kind of what I'm getting at here is I don't want to see Aquaman 2. I don't give a shit about it. I don't care anymore. It's been a joke to me for a while, but this is just kind of like the final punchline It's not even a funny one. It's like Arthur Fleck standing on stage with his little comedy book, and you just kind of feel bad for him. Like, you just kind of want to give him a hug because you just feel like it's sad. That's kind of how I feel almost about WB. It's like I'm not even angry at them. I almost pity their stupidity. The reason I don't really want to see this movie, and I am somewhat interested in The Flash, is because according to all reports, Ezra Miller has actually taken some accountability for actions that were done. And of course, they're supposedly getting help. James Gunn said it. A lot of people around Ezra Miller said it. The studio said it. Now, does that mean that everyone is telling the truth? No, everybody could absolutely be lying. But at the very least, there is a public, what would you say? A public acceptance of failure there. A public acceptance of fault. An idea of, well, I am a messed up person. I need to grow. I need to change. I need to move on. I need to do better. I'm a role model. I'm not supposed to be a piece of trash. Maybe I should fix this. That's at least something that's nice to see. When it comes to Amber Heard, I have seen no personal accountability taken ever regarding the stuff with Johnny Depp. I've never seen Amber say anything like, yeah, I'm at fault too. I've never seen Amber say, I need to grow as a person because I did X, Y, and Z. It's always, no, Johnny did this, Johnny did that, Johnny did this, Johnny did that. And when it came to Johnny Depp's side of it, it was actual admittance of, I shouldn't have done this, however, this is far worse. So, for example, things like Johnny Depp sending those texts to his friend, it was reported widely, where he made mention of like how much he hated Amber and how he wished she was dead, things like that. He was not defending those texts, you know what I mean? Like, there was no defense from this man who clearly had been so stressed and messed up and had a mental breakdown. And then, of course, there was also the whole fact reported in court of her recording him and trying to basically, in my opinion, egg him on and get like a reaction out of him. I believe it was a day or two after his mother's death. Things like that from her. I've never seen her take any accountability for that. I've never seen the studio distance themselves from her and say, oh, wow, that's bad. We don't want to work with someone like this. This is abuse. This is horrible. There's been none of that. And why? Because at the end of the day, Amber Heard is a woman. Amber Heard is also a white woman, which is interesting to mention. I do kind of wonder in some ways if she was a black woman, if this would have gone a little differently, or if she was a less white woman, or if she was a fat woman. She is a perfect specimen. She is a, most of the time blonde, I suppose in this movie, redheaded woman with a pretty well-endowed chest and butt, who is very skinny, has supermodel build, has a lot of charisma behind her when she talks, and has dated a lot of high-profile men in Hollywood, and of course other areas that, you know, give her social status. Then, of course, she's had a lot of, I would say, wealth success, income, economic success from her work in the movie industry. You add that all together, and she is this wealthy, very skinny, petite, supermodel looking, fine as hell woman. I mean, like, it's true. She's like gorgeous in terms of just her looks. Like, she's very beautiful. And because of that, things are looked at very differently. Johnny Depp, yeah, he's handsome, but like, also, he's not young, okay? And also, he's gone through his public stuff in terms of different, you know, substances and looking disheveled at certain points and paparazzi following him around. Amber hasn't really had that long career, and the I guess I would say the skeletons drug out out of the closet into the light. Apparently I can't talk today. That Johnny Depp has had over the course of his career. But again, to me, the difference is Johnny admits he's imperfect. Johnny admits he needs to grow. Johnny admits when he did something wrong. And that's kind of how I feel about The Flash. You know, I'm not saying that I love Ezra Miller. I've made my Miller Watch series that I think is actually really fun to break down and watch just the insanity around Ezra Miller. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of bad stuff around Ezra Miller that I believe has happened as well. A lot of very bad allegations, court cases and things that are just not good. But at the end of the day, there is at least an admittance of fault. And of course, people trying to correct it. Around Amber, there isn't that. Now, again, I understand completely why someone may not want to see The Flash. I'm not here to convince you to see The Flash. At the end of the day, my reasoning to see The Flash is self-serving. It's that I would like to support a project that Michael Keaton comes back in, and I think Supergirl in that movie looks badass and hot. Okay, that's really it. That's all it is. It's not deep. My justification for being willing to see The Flash is what I provided. But again, I have a vested interest in wanting to see The Flash because I want to see Michael Keaton come back for something. Whether that's an animated film like they did before the great Adam West's passing. Those were really cool, where they did, I believe it was called The Cape Crusader. And of course they did the movie with Two-Face. But anyways, so they did a couple of animated things with Adam West that were really cool, and Burt Ward. I would love to see Michael Keaton come back for that. I'd love to see his Batman from 1989 and Returns get more comic books or more toys or whatever. Those are the kinds of things I care about in The Flash that I want to see. The reason I'm willing to see it is because of public admittance of wrong and supposedly an attempt to get better that Ezra Miller is going through. I haven't seen that with Amber, like I said a few times here. I've only seen the bad over and over again, and I believe the reason that WB is willing to keep Amber is because of who she is. And to be honest, I also believe to some extent the reason that Ezra Miller got the leeway that was given to them was because of the bad look that would have come from firing Ezra Miller. Okay? Ezra Miller is a very openly, non-binary individual, very much a, not spokesperson or cheerleader, because that sounds demeaning, figurehead in Hollywood for non-traditional individuals, right? A lot of people rallied behind Ezra Miller. A lot of people saw someone in Ezra Miller when there was the whole, this is who I am, I'm a very different kind of person type thing come out. There were a lot of people who rallied behind Ezra Miller. A lot of people who were like, hey, that's my person in Hollywood, because a lot of people want someone to be like them. It makes them feel better, That's not something I think about too much, but a lot of people do. And I believe personally that there was a lot of baggage around possibly firing Ezra, and I think that that's why those chances were given. And I absolutely agree with you if you think that's bullshit. I do too. But my point is, at least with Ezra, there is an admittance of guilt of some kind and an attempt to better oneself. That's what I want to see out of people, okay? I don't like that people still talk about this in terms of a negative at all. But when Robert Downey Jr. went through everything with all the drug stuff and the public fall from grace and everything, I know some of you probably weren't even born at that time. Nobody expected RDJ to make a comeback. Everybody thought this dude's washed up. This is a lost cause. What a shame. This guy threw away his entire future. He can never be better than he is. He's a druggy piece of crap. That's what people were thinking. And you can say, no, they weren't. They were. Go back, look at the headlines, look at the things coming out around that time. Everybody was like, this is a disaster. This is very sad. Oh, well, this person's career is over. They blew it. But guess what? Came back, made a huge difference, a positive difference in a lot of people's life. I would say taught a lot of people what it means to be a hero. Yeah, through the character that he had a very big impact on shaping and doing. A lot of Iron Man is improv from RDJ. A lot of Iron Man is rewritten scripts with his actual input on the character. A lot of Iron Man's success was giving back to people. Go look at some of the stuff that he's done for charity. It is insanity. He has given more to charity in just a handful of years than most of us will ever make in money in a lifetime. The man gave back to the cast and crew. I remember of Iron Man 3, I believe it was, where, he wanted them to have higher salary, essentially, and he commissioned these gold Iron Man heads to be made that were worth a lot of money that he gave to people on the cast and crew of that movie. That man made a huge difference for someone who was just a druggie, who would not go anywhere, who could not fix himself. And for me, maybe it is the naivety in me, maybe it is the wanting to see people get better, but I believe that Ezra Miller could turn it around and do the same thing. The biggest hurdle in becoming a good person and trying to help others is admitting that you're not. I don't think anyone is ever a perfect person. I think anyone who thinks they are is a narcissistic piece of garbage. But being willing to admit when you have a problem and fix it is, to me, the difference here, is to me one of the reasons why I'm still at least interested somewhat in watching The Flash. And maybe I wouldn't feel quite as much that way without Michael Keaton. I'm not, too proud to admit that. But that's something that I'm still somewhat interested in. To me, Aquaman 2 has become a complete joke. I don't see any reason to see it, and this was just the nail in the coffin. Now, am I telling you not to see it? Am I saying, like, you have to go make a difference? No. At the end of the day, I'm one person. Maybe every single person in the world will see Aquaman 2 except for me. That's fine. I don't care. I don't need to watch it. And at the end of the day, I don't even need a 20-minute justification for why not to watch it, nor do you. It's your money. It's your time. It's my money, and it's my time. And I've chosen I don't want to spend it on this. I don't respect the decisions made around this movie. Whoever's in charge of making this choice, I don't respect them or their decision around this, okay? It just makes me very sad, and I think it sends a bad message in Hollywood. If you're a woman and you're pretty enough and skinny enough and have a big enough chest and a big enough butt, you can do whatever you want, as long as you are not thrown in prison. But if you are a man and someone looks at you the wrong way and you're accused of something, well, you're probably a misogynistic piece of crap who beats women and goes to the playground and kidnaps children and sabotages the NASA space program and he's a racist. I don't know. There's no matter what you do, it's the standards are different for different people, And it's funny to me because people will talk about this in certain areas. They'll be like, yeah, if you go in an airport and you're a little too dark complexioned, people ask you more questions, or, oh, your name is a little too different. Maybe it's a little harder to get through security. People will talk about this kind of stuff in different areas, and they will be totally on board with the discussion. But when it becomes about certain people and certain things, a lot of people get very uncomfortable and they feel like they really have to jump in there and defend it. And I find it very amusingly pathetic, and I don't want to feed into it or give them money for it. It's a joke to me. And I hope the movie flops. And if it doesn't, I guess hopefully the writers and the SFX team get a bonus, because those people are underpaid for what they do compared to people like Amber at the top. It's really funny to me how many probably good people who worked on Aquaman 2 would not get a bonus, would not see any extra money no matter what. They're just salaried, no matter how good or badly this movie does. But Amber Heard, of course, raking in that cash. It's very amusing and silly, but it's the world we live in. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. I'm kind of done trying to convince the Amber stans, though. I don't think they're worth my or anyone's oxygen or time. I say just let them kind of scream out into the void and tire themselves out, because they don't matter. So let me know what you think. Also, if you enjoyed this, please be sure to subscribe for more content. Tomorrow should be The World Is Not Enough review. I hope you will check that out. Have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shway.